All right, good evening, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the November 20th, 2024 Grants Pass City Council meeting. We start our meetings with a moment of silence, so please join us for that. Please rise for the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, it looks like we have everybody in the house tonight except for Councilor Pelley. Let me know he was going to be a few minutes late. We're going to get started with a proclamation about Small Business Saturday. And Terry Hopkins, the CEO of the Grants Pass and Josephine County Chamber of Commerce, is here to receive this proclamation. Whereas the City of Grants Pass celebrates its local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, and whereas, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 34.7 million small businesses in the United States, small businesses represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for 61.1% of net new jobs created since 1995, and small businesses employ 45.9% of the employees in the private sector in the United States. And whereas 68 cents of every dollar spent at small businesses in the United States stays in the local community, and every dollar spent at small businesses creates an additional 48 cents in local business activity as a result of employees and local businesses purchasing local goods and services. And whereas 59% of U.S. consumers aware of Small Business Saturday have shopped or ate at a small independently owned retailer or restaurant on Small Business Saturday in 2023, and whereas the City of Grants Pass supports its local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities, and whereas advocacy groups as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now therefore I, Sarah Bristol, Mayor of the City of Grants Pass, do hereby proclaim Saturday, November 30th, 2024 as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Thanks for being here today, Terry.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Mayor Bristol and members of our City Council for the recognition of Small Business Saturday and what our local businesses play in our community. Small businesses, as you mentioned, are the heart of Grants Pass. They provide jobs, support local families, and create the unique charm that draws visitors to our city. They're also a key driver of our local economy, reinvesting our community in ways that make it stronger and more resilient. So I thank you for the proclamation, and also would love to invite all of you this Small Business Saturday, November 30th, from 10 to 2 to participate in our cocoa crawl, where participating businesses will be giving out free samples of hot cocoa. The Chamber of Commerce will also offer free gift wrapping at the Downtown Welcome Center for purchases from those participating businesses. So thank you, and we will see you all Saturday.
Awesome, thank you. All right. Next up, we have a recognition of a special member of our community and one of our volunteers. And I haven't seen him. There he is, hiding over there on the left. All right. Today we would like to honor a man whose unwavering dedication to our community has left an indelible mark. Doug Walker, a true champion of affordable housing. He continues to serve as an inspiration to us all. Appointed to the city's inaugural Housing Advisory Committee in 2017, Doug quickly emerged as a leader, becoming its first chair. For 7 years, he has guided this committee with wisdom and passion, shaping the future of our city. His influence extends far beyond his role as chair. Doug played a pivotal role in advocating for the creation of the city's Housing and Neighborhood Specialist position. His foresight and tireless efforts have resulted in a dedicated resource for our community's housing needs. Doug's commitment to improving our city is evident in his participation in numerous subcommittees, including the Housing Needs Analysis, Buildable Lands Inventory, Housing Production Strategy, and Middle Housing Code Amendment. His contributions to these initiatives have been invaluable, shaping policies that will benefit generations to come. Beyond his city roles, Doug has been an active member in our community, participating in organizations such as Foundry Village, Veterans Village, Evans Place, Mid-Road Foundation, Rotary, Mint, and PATH. His involvement in these groups demonstrates his deep-rooted commitment to making a positive impact on the lives of others. Thank you, Doug Walker, for your many contributions to our community. Your dedication, leadership, and perseverance have positively impacted so many lives.
Thank you. I want to take a moment too and say thank you to all of you counselors. I really appreciate this. Is quite an honor. Thank you. I want to say that the Housing Advisory Committee was started about 2 years before it was officially formed, and it was started by All Care, Sam Ingle, and Tom Schauer of the city. And they deserve a lot of credit for getting it started and recruiting people to be on that and their efforts. And I want to say I appreciate all of your work and working with all of you. DJ, pay attention. I appreciate you. Especially you. You put a lot of effort into this, DJ. You did a lot of effort into the housing issues here in town, and I appreciate that. And I also want to say that you've all, over the last 4 or 5 years, I think, have put a special effort into using the city staff, Aaron's staff, using the city, using the planning codes, the building department, and the other programs in the city as tools to make the community better, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate you actually using the tools you have at your disposal to try to make the community better. And I hope you continue to do that. I hope you councilors that are staying continue to use the city and its assets and its very intelligent, capable people as tools to make things better. Thank you.
All right, next up, we are going to get a presentation about, from the library, the Josephine Community Library, about what they would like to do, building a new library downtown. And I'm not sure who we have here to give that presentation. Here comes Kate.
Thank you. Do you know how to do it? Are you savvy? Okay. Hi, counselors and staff. I am Kate Lasky. I'm the library director for Josephine Community Library District.
And I'm Rebecca Stoltz. I'm the executive director of Josephine Community Library Foundation.
So we're here to talk to you tonight about the new library project in downtown Grants Pass, give you some of the details and answer any questions that you may have. So just to get us a little bit of a foundation, the current library that we're in on 200 Northwest C Street is inadequate and outdated. For example, our children's area has one electrical outlet. It was built in 1959. The building is currently owned by Josephine County, who has eyes on taking that building back. So it doesn't belong to the library, so we want our own home. And it currently has 38 parking spots, which might come up later in the presentation. And it's no longer serving our community's growing needs today.
not working.
And that's our presentation for tonight. Thank you. There we go. Okay, so usage is really important. So why do we need a library? Who's using the library? And then what about this library in Grants Pass? So currently, the Grants Pass library to date, 16,000 physical items are checked out every month from the library. System-wide, 10,000 items are out in people's homes on any given day. That talks to you a little bit about usage. And then in Grants Pass alone, we've got 120 individual volunteers who give 1,500 hours a month of their time to keep it open and operating, which is that resident investment in library services, 600 computer sessions per month. That's the piece of the library that really builds that self-reliance, allows people to kind of pick themselves up by their bootstraps and get back on track. And then system-wide, we've got investors or donors. So individual donors are about 2,500. And then we have 25,000 active library card holders. Now, active means they're using their library cards. I'm not just holding library cards so it can build up that number. These active library cards are for Josephine County, and that's a really solid number representing the demographic that exists here. So what you know about the demographic is what you know about our library. And then we're heading into information about this project and wanted you to know that we did 8 community meetings to gather input on finalizing a concept for the purchase or for the city block that was purchased in downtown Grants Pass. That's my slide? Okay. So the new library will be a catalyst. There's in the middle there's the picture of that city block. I think it's called River City Plaza. And it's between 6th and 7th and J and K. The Library Foundation purchased it in 2023 outright with grants and donations. And it will build economic development. And I haven't been changing my papers. There's something I'm supposed to say on this slide. There we go. It will build economic development, commerce and growth, property values, and civic pride. And to summarize that, because that's a ton of words on that slide, it's just going to spark renewal. It's going to support small businesses and boost property values. So it's a win-win for the city. As we develop that underdeveloped area, those property values will rise, and then the city will benefit directly from those taxes. And of course, inspire civic pride, and it will be a safe and vibrant community center.
Keep going forward and it keeps going backward.
You got it.
Ta-da, here, please take this part. So working with the architects and engineers, we designed the site plan so that it includes frontage of the building facing 6th Street, so it aligns with what the rest of the businesses downtown will be doing or that are already doing. And this really gives us that opportunity to extend that downtown walking tour all the way to our river area.
Okay,
The arrows here.
I did it.
Perfect. So keeping in mind that with all of the new activity in that area, we looked at parking improvements and considered not only just the parking lot, adding 51 spaces, but looking at the city's parking lots that are offered within a 1/4-mile radius of the new location. And that's what's indicated on this slide. The darkened area is the new library site. Next slide.
Next slide.
So as Kate mentioned, we held a series of 8 community meetings over the summer and had really great engagement. We also conducted a survey. And of all that, concept A of the 4 concepts that we presented was the overall winner. Both the Library Foundation Board and the Library District Board voted and approved the community's selection. So with Concept A, this is a single-story building, and it allows for us to build potentially in a phased approach. We're going to raise the money that we need for the entire project, But this gives us that flexibility if we need to, depending on the funding we're able to secure. This model also provides that the library district, given its current budget, will be able to maintain and provide the library services as well. And it gives us the maximum flexibility where in the future we can add on without needing to add a second story. Did you want to say anything?
No, I think you summarized it pretty well. It is 51 parking spaces with that additional street parking. And it provides a secure outdoor area, which was really important in those community feedback sessions. So there'll be a gate across that 6th Street side that we open during operation hours and can close when the library's closed. And it'll be accessible from the parking lot, so you won't have to walk all the way around the building to get into the library.
And the meeting space.
Oh, yeah. And then in that, one of the annexes that you see there off of the main building, one is a community meeting space, the other is the children's library. The community meeting space will be available and accessible to the community when the library staff is not there, making it possible for us to offer that more widely, given our current capacity and staffing, which we're also doing in Illinois Valley, and it's working brilliantly. So I think this is you.
So we will have vehicle access coming through J and the K streets, not 6th and 7th. And then this picture on the right just shows the pedestrian access. So given those after-hour events, if somebody's using the meeting room, they'll be able to access the building from several different areas.
Next slide. Yep. Ta-da! So this is your slide.
Ta-da! No. So this is a very rough draft, first sketch of what our building could look like. And it's just very inspiring to see the potential and what this is really going to do for that section of our downtown. As you can see in the front there, that secured outdoor area really will be an interesting place. We'll be able to gather, we'll have events, and then when it's open, the library's open, it will be open. When it's closed, we'll be able to secure it.
And one of the questions we often get is sort of how big is that outdoor courtyard? So that's the size of a basketball court, and both of those annexes are sizes of the basketball court. And it is 22,000 square feet. We currently have 15,700 square feet, but it's so poorly designed with what we have. We'll have a more efficient design and really be able to serve more people with this particular library. And we are starting to think about exteriors with engineers and architects, and we're kind of leaning towards that northwest design, sort of matching the other buildings in that area closer to the river. Yeah.
So we're just finishing up finalizing the concept plan and the rendering that we shared with you tonight. We're going to start our schematic design phase, and as you see the timeline, we have a very aggressive timeline, but we're a pretty aggressive group and we get things done. So we'll be working on this project. Right now, we have an estimated date to start construction in 2027, recognizing that the longer it takes us to start construction, the more expensive the project will be. Next slide.
Next slide. And I think, yeah, okay.
And so to date, the Library Foundation has secured nearly $1 million to support all of the site preparation and pre-construction work. Thanks to an anonymous $500,000 contribution we received through Oregon Community Foundation, and then a cultural resource economic fund that we received a couple of years ago. We were awarded it. And so on the right, you'll see how we're planning to allocate some of those funds and what we're expecting to raise and how we're doing that. And the board of directors for the foundation and the library district are committed to raising the funds we need to see this project through. Last year, we were able to open the new Williams Library after constructing it, And then just this last month, actually it was only a couple weeks ago, we opened our newly renovated and expanded Illinois Valley Library. So we know that this project is going to come to fruition.
And I think another question that we sometimes get about this is a question about a bond. And I can let you know that currently, the current library district board does not support putting a bond on a ballot. So we are committed to raising these funds through donations and grants. And hopefully some support from our city. So that leads to our request to the Urban Renewal Agency. As the council is aware, the Tourism Advisory Committee and the Collaborative Economic Development Committee sent their requests forward to support this new library project in downtown Grants Pass. We've been working on this for a while and have had great conversations with city staff. We don't necessarily know what the right picture is to partner with the city, but we know that we want to partner with the city. We think it'll make our grant request stronger. And one way that we could do that is the request that we're making this evening and through those two committees, which is to please make an amendment to the Urban Renewal Agency plan to include a public library. There's no financial commitment to making that amendment. It just allows for the conversation to continue. And like we've mentioned, the library would be a true catalyst project, and it would showcase, I think, the City Council's leadership and drive for economic growth in the city of Grants Pass, and potentially leave a lasting legacy that we can benefit from for generations to come. Do we do another slide? No, that's it. That's it, if you have questions.
Thank you, Kate and Rebecca. Council, do you have questions? Valerie?
Yeah, you mentioned the 8 groups that you had, in terms of getting input from the community. Can you tell me numbers-wise, first of all, how you chose those groups and what kind of, would you say, numbers attended when you went out to get that community support?
So we met with volunteers, of course, library volunteers, donors, and then we went and started talking with the business owners in the area and really encouraged them to come. And we held a special session for business owners. And then 3 of those 8 meetings were community members at large. And we did a ton of marketing, really trying to get as many folks to participate as possible. And I think in total we had between 325, 350 people attend.
Okay, thank you.
And I also, we just completed our patron survey with 1,441 respondents, and I haven't presented that to my board. That meeting is tomorrow night, so I can't say too much, but I can say that we increased in all areas of demand and usage and reported usage, self-reported usage. From those 2/3 of all of the respondents from that say they visit the library in person and that they prefer to check out physical books. And I think it's really important to mention that because there's a kind of a myth that the internet has replaced libraries, and that's not the pattern of behavior that we see at the library. And also we do provide computer classes and digital classes. So I want you to kind of get a sense of what residents are actually doing. And those computer basics classes are helping bridge the gap for, honestly, like the last 10 folks who just participated, tooled up to go to community college.
Great, thank you.
Do you have other questions? Vanessa?
You had made a reference that local funds can help open up additional funds. Can you speak more to that for grant opportunities?
Yes, so when we apply for state and federal funding, which we will, and speak to larger donor funders like our $500,000 givers, to be able to have a partnership with our city makes us more competitive. It means that we're collaborating and working together. And like I said before, I'm not sure all of the ways that can look like. That's city staff knows that. But this is one way. If I'm able to say, we're a part of their urban renewal district plan, and they recently voted that in. That makes us competitive.
Any other questions? All right, no more questions at this time. Thank you. I know we have a couple of people from the audience who wanted to speak on this issue, and we're going to do that during the public comment time a little later. So we don't have a whole lot on our agenda tonight, so it won't be too much longer before we get to public comment. Our next presentation is going to be from Mint. And they're going to tell us about what they're working on in terms of shelter and navigation center.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us today. Just want to do a quick little recap of Mint and its origin. It started in 2022 with a wagon and some vaccines. It was in January, February of 2022. And within 10 months, we had an organized outreach event on every Thursday that included 14 other agencies and a medical van that we were able to secure. We've been committed to providing medical care, resources, getting people into treatment and housing ever since then. I think what has been the key to Mint's success so far is we are very, very passionate about two things. One of them is going to the people that are unhoused and asking them what the barriers are. What are the barriers to preventing you from being successful? And then putting in things in place to be able to remove those barriers for them. So that's something that we've been focused on. And in addition to that, we know from the beginning that we are nothing without our community, and we are everything with the community. And so we've made it a very good point to be involved and had a good relationship with the city, the police department, and all the agencies that we work with, because we know this is a problem that needs everyone coming together, and it has to be solution focused. So with that, Mint knew that a navigation center would be the next best thing to help our unhoused based on what they've told us and, data and evidence. And so we were able to secure a property in February of 2024. And we had a lease. Mr. Parker actually approached us and, we came here, we got an SUP, and things have been going great at that place. We have the lease ending in February of 2025, and the owner is ready to retire, and he's not necessarily interested in leasing anymore, and he wants to put it up for sale. In addition to that, Bimart, who we've tried to maintain a good partnership, has a grassy knoll right next to us, and they've put that on up for sale as well. Mint's desire and plan is to have 20 pallet homes in the back part of that property, and that furniture building is going to be turned, or we would like to turn it into a low barrier shelter. And then that grassy area could be used for additional tiny pallet homes, foundry-like homes, but in the interim could be used as an urban campground if the city feels like there's a need and benefit from that. So that is our goal. All that being said, I think that what we could serve there would be 40 in the low barrier shelter, 20 in the tiny homes, and then another 40 in that urban area, foundry village type, or urban campground that would turn into a foundry village type area. So we're looking at about 80 or about 100 people that we could serve in that area. The building that we're running right now will continue to be a navigation center, which will be access to any unhoused. They can come and get resources. And then it would continue to be an inclement weather shelter for the city. So with that, and knowing that Mr. Parker is ready to sell, in October 8th, we did reach out to the city requesting $750,000 to help secure that property so we continue moving forward with our plans. As the previous presenter mentioned, this also allows us to show state and federal funders that we have a good partnership with the city and that we're working with them and help us get additional funding moving forward. As conversations continued, there was also discussion about potentially other sites that might be more beneficial to the city and Mint. And Mint's stance from the beginning is we are here to partner. There are many pros to staying at Parker's Place and where we're currently at. And there's also some cons to it as well. The property suggested up at Washington, I think, has pros and cons. I think The biggest concern right now for Mint is knowing that, council, I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room, we're going to have a new mayor and council coming in, and our desire is to be really good partners with the mayor and council, but I do acknowledge that they may have different goals and strategic ideas on how to solve the problem. And Mint's goal is to be around long-term. We're not going to go anywhere, and so we're looking for a solution that makes sense for us to continue to serve the unhoused. I do want to bring up the fact that low barrier does not mean no barrier. And I think there's some misconceived ideas that Mint allows drugs, Mint does this, Mint does that, and that's not the case. We are low barrier. We want that place to be safe for everybody. And we don't allow drug use. And if it is found that that is happening, we end it on the spot. We don't allow it in our facility. If someone uses drugs and they are exited and they come back 2 weeks later and say, I'm sorry, we let them back in. And we give them a second chance because that's the right thing to do. And we did have instances in the winter, not in the summer, where people tried to use at our facility. We had a conversation with them. We explained why they didn't do it again. But we have a zero tolerance when it comes to that. So I just want to emphasize that more and more, that low barrier doesn't mean no barrier. It just means that we're not putting in requirements for them to be there other than engage in case management services. Secondly, I want to talk about some of our results. And so we track our results because we think it's important. I think data drives change, and you need to know how you're doing. And so we're talking about housing people. And so I want to talk about some of our stats on housing since July. So from July until September, we housed 17 people. In October, we housed 3 people. In November, we housed 3 people. And in December, we have 4 people on December 1st moving into their first home. And so that's 22 people in 6 months that we've been able to house on a very limited budget. We've been running on an operation of $200,000 over the last 2 years. And so a lot of volunteer work. And of those 22 people, 17 of them we've been working with greater than 18 months. That's how long it took to get them an ID, to get Social Security, HUD, disability, et cetera, set up, and then find a home. And so we've had exceptional numbers these last 3 or 4 months because of the time we've invested over the last 18 months, and people are finally getting their turn in line. And it's really exciting to see. But 17 of those people greater than 18 months, 3 of them we'd been working with for 6 months or more. And then we did have an elderly couple that we were able to rapidly house within a week because they met certain qualifications and demographics. And that was an amazing win. And I strive for the day that that's what we get to do when we go to house people. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to our Director of Operations, Leah.
So Cassie asked me to speak a little bit to the humanity of Mint. So I just want to encourage that in the thousands of unhoused people that we've worked with in the last years, that these are not strangers to us in Grants Pass. There are people, there are citizens who have lived here a long time. They're graduates of our local high schools, they're our former neighbors. Many of them grew up playing on the Rogue River, they raised their families here, they contributed to the fabric of the community before the hardships led to them losing their housing. For example, just last Thursday during Mint's outreach, one of our volunteers was surprised to see somebody who had been a former colleague. They had been logging together decades ago, and now this man is struggling to survive in a drenched tent in a city where he's lived his whole life. So also today, after the rain and the wind that we've seen in the last few days, one of our volunteers described the current campsites as completely destroyed. They have rivers of water running through the sites and sopping wet tents. People were out there trying to dig trenches with whatever they had just to try to get a little bit of drainage in the area. And I don't think that your constituents deserve to live in this way. So hopefully Mint's proposition will elevate the living conditions significantly. Investing Mint is not only a moral choice, but it's also a practical one. We have a proven record of housing individuals, as Cassie described, who have been experiencing houselessness for a long time, sometimes decades before Mint was able to help them with housing. And this is transforming lives and reducing the burden on our city's resources. Every person Mint helps find stability reduces costs in healthcare, emergency services, law enforcement, public assistance, trash cleanup, you name it. It's much cheaper to have folks in housing. Furthermore, this work ensures compliance with statutes and prevents lawsuits and associated expenses. Your leadership sets the tone for how we treat every citizen in Grants Pass, and supporting Mint allows us to live up to our shared values. It ensures that all residents, regardless of their circumstances, have access to the resources and support that they need. And this is our opportunity to demonstrate compassion and financial responsibility in one decisive action. So is that all of us, or Dr. Scott Nelson is our board chair and would also like to say a few words.
Oh, thank you for allowing us this opportunity to speak to you. The last time I was here was in 2022 when we were speaking on COVID-19, and I only choose the most contentious topics to come and talk to the council about. But I am grateful for this opportunity and grateful for each of you for allowing us to speak on this. I'm currently serving as the Chief of Staff at Three Rivers Medical Center, and I'm a colon and rectal and general surgeon there. My wife and I have lived here in Grants Pass for 15 years, and we've raised our 7 children here. We still have 3 in-house, and they're in the high schools and the junior high. We love Grants Pass. This has been a wonderful place for us, and I, probably with many of you and all of our community, have watched with some consternation as our parks have been overrun, and we have lost some of our green spaces to the unhoused. And I have a unique perspective as I get to take care of these individuals at the hospital, and I recognize that these are complex situations. It is not just an easy fix to say we should do this or that and fix the problem. And I found out about Mint 6 months ago, and I have offered my services because I see the value in what they have to offer. They are out in the tents, they are taking care of the health needs of the individuals, but more importantly, they have partnered with many of the other services and nonprofits within our community to support this group of people and to find ways for them to become housed and get off the streets. And the proposal that they have to you as a city in partnership, I support wholeheartedly. And in fact, I have joined the board and was recently elected chair of the board to offer my support in this endeavor. We do have some concerns as the city council changes, and so we are speaking not from a political standpoint, but really from a humanitarian standpoint. These are individuals, they're human beings, and they deserve the best that we as a city and as a populace and as humans can offer these individuals in their time of need. As I said, these are complex situations. Some are self-inflicted through drugs or alcohol or poor choices in life, but many are not. And recognizing that we have an opportunity and really an obligation to do what we can to support these individuals, I think goes a long way. Mint has partnered with Asante, with All Care, with Siskiyou Clinic, and many other of the large organizations because we all recognize that this is a community project that we all need to be a part of. And I am throwing my support and my weight behind this effort because I recognize the value in caring for people and doing what we need to do. So as you as a city council have the opportunities to discuss and debate, talk about what is best, I hope it will be through collaboration and partnership with many of these wonderful organizations that have the opportunity to go out and be with these people. I was able to serve with Brian on the school board for several years. One of the things that worried me the most as we talk about this is that almost 10% of our students in the GP7 school district are considered unhoused by the state of Oregon. That's almost 1 in 10 of our students. If we think that this problem is just going to go away in the future, I think we are sorely mistaken. This problem starts at a very early age and continues throughout life. And so we do need to have a good plan in order to help these individuals. Our school district does a marvelous job. If you have not visited Gladiola and some of the other programs that our school district has to offer each of our students, I would encourage you to do so and to continue to give them your support as a city so that we can help really prevent the unhoused population from growing year after year. But ultimately, I just want to express my appreciation for each of you. I know many of you will be stepping down from your service here shortly. Thank you very much for what you have done for the city. Sometimes it is a thankless job, but there are many here who don't come to all of your meetings, but we appreciate your service. Thank you for allowing us to present tonight, and I hope that you will consider our recommendations to you as we move forward in the future.
Thank you. Council, what questions do you have? Does anybody have questions? Valerie?
Yeah, I have a question. I know both of you, Cassie, Mint is not your full-time job, am I correct?
Right now, it is not my full-time job, no.
So you are a nurse?
I am. And oddly enough, I'm a home health nurse, the irony, I hear it.
Okay, all right, great. And Leah, what is your full-time job?
I work for public health, and so I've been supported to do a lot of this work with Mint. That is how Mint started, was as a public health program, but I do a lot of it on my volunteer time as well.
Okay, so it's county health that comes through Josephine County, correct?
Josephine County Public Health, yes.
Josephine County Public Health, okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have questions? Joel?
So I have two proposals in front of me. One, I think, was with regards to partnership. And then I have another proposal from Mint from September 30th.
Yes, so we've had two different conversations with this. The first one was around September 30th, I think. I thought it was October 10th, but that we submitted a request initially for the $750,000, and then continued conversations were had, and they asked to submit another proposal of what it would look like with more detail to operate a facility with 100 plus people. So that's what that second document is.
And I'd just like some clarification on that document. But the second document was asking for the 1.3, but that was city, right?
The second document, I'm not asking for that amount of money. What I would,
it was unclear.
I'm not silly. No, I think what we were asking for, or what we were asked, is to come up with what is going to be the operational spend, what was this going to look like to scale up. And so, what we feel like success looks like is the FTEs on there, the resources, and that's the budget that we would need. We recognize that next year, that is maybe not the budget we're going to have, but that's what we need. That's what success looks like for us, and that's what we're striving for. But again, to get the dollars that we need to have certain partnerships in place.
Okay. And I just wanted clarity on that because we were a little unclear.
Yeah.
Rob?
Yeah, Cassie, you mentioned, I think it was a total of roughly around 100 people you thought you'd be able to serve when you're up and running. Is that figure's about right?
Yeah, so there'd be 20 of the pallet shelters, and then the congregate living low barrier shelter, 40. I would love to get 50 in there, but I think I can say 40 safely. And then the grassy area, we can turn that into an urban campground, which I think could be an additional 40 to 50 people. With our long-term goal, of course, to be tiny homes or pallet homes in that area and not camps.
So, if everything went as well as you might hope, all the steps, all the dominoes fall in your favor, how long might that take? When would you expect to be up and running and be able to serve 100 people?
Great question. So we have right now capital funding to continue to move forward and get the tiny homes up and running as soon as possible. I am not great on timelines, and I don't know if Doug Walker's still here. I'm not going to put him on the spot. But I am not super great on the timelines as far as permitting and working with the city on that. But we are ready to expedite on that and then starting to get funding. Once we own the property, the amount of grants for capital changes. And so, that looks different for us as far as getting funding for capital, but we can have the tiny homes up and running. Switching, if we own that grassy area, getting an urban campground up and running you guys did it in a weekend. We could probably set it up in a week or two as well. And then it'll take some time for the low barrier shelter, but I think we're all motivated and hate seeing what we're seeing right now at J Street. Like it's breaking our heart. And I think that, with the right time, resources, and energy, we can really expedite fundraising and getting that open.
And so, to be clear, when you talk about part of the facility eventually being an urban campground, I visited the facilities in Medford. I visited Roseburg. The picture in my mind on an urban campground, I think that picture in my mind on everything else is basically one way or another, out of the weather, housed, roof over their head, whether it's pallet shelters, tiny homes, whatever. But urban campground, when you're talking about it, you're talking about something with a locked gate at night? Are you talking about managed? Can you describe what your vision is?
It would be a model very reflective of Rogue Retreat. You know, I mean, we're not trying to recreate anything here, and we partner very closely with Sam Engel. And so, you know, we work smarter, not harder. And so we're going to leverage what's been working and have already kind of, you know, fostered that relationship and partnership with Rogue Retreat. And so we're going to glean their expertise and wisdoms on how to set up an urban campground correctly if that's the path we go down.
Joel?
So just to clarify and make sure I understand this, the proposal that from 930 was for buying the building at 750,000. The partnership, the total cost, not necessarily the cost to the city, the total annual expense, regardless, that doesn't include the price of the property, was $1.8 million a year?
$1.8 million a year to house over 100 people and provide them case management services, yes.
And so
Which I
that
think
would
is
have to happen
relatively
every
reasonable.
year? And then how much of that would you expect to come from the city?
All we're asking right now, we're not asking for a continued relationship and commitment from the city right now. We're asking
Okay.
for a partnership, and right now, we want to continue to move forward and provide services, and we're in a rock and a hard space. I mean, like,
Because of the building?
not just because of the building, because of, we have limited amount of options to get funding right now because we need to show that we have good partnerships with the city to be able to tap into state funding, et cetera. So, I mean, there's a lot of limitations, and I think starting right now with just supporting us with at least some funding to be able to get up and running at a building, whether it's Parker Place or another one that you guys desire, is where we're at.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Vanessa?
I did just want to clarify, I think what you're saying is the building is the missing key there to unlock the additional grants, yeah. So I think that would answer your
Could
question.
you repeat that again?
The building is the missing key, I think is
Okay.
the question that you were asking.
So it's not the $1.8 million operating expenses?
No, that's separate.
That-
It's separate, no, it's not.
Well, it could be, yeah.
The city asked me to come up what a budget would look like, and so I did exactly what the city asked. That's not me requesting money from the city, it's just an operation budget for us to run.
Okay. Do they have it?
Other questions? So at this point, Cassie, you have a lease through the beginning of February at Parker Place, and you're providing navigation services there.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens beyond that if you don't?
I think that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the board and I are, you know, we'll meet and discuss, but I think we gotta find a way to purchase the property in some capacity. I don't know what that looks like, and or pivot the way we provide services, which we don't wanna do because it'll limit what we can do. You know, we still have a medical van and we'd still be able to do outreach, but we don't know what it would look like moving forward, so.
Okay, so you'd like to be able to bring people into the facility and have them stay overnight, and I think at this point that's not happening, right? That's been kind of a misunderstanding about what you have happening in that
Correct.
building at this point?
Correct. Well, currently the building is open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and we have a case manager and a peer support on staff along with 2 consistent volunteers that show up daily to help run it. We have multiple people enrolled in case management services, and those 2 staff are key to the fact that we've housed 22 people in the last 4 or 5 days. So we get 40 to 50 visitors Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, that come in and get services from us. Sometimes those visitors sleep in front of our building, and if we're not there, there's not much we can do to control it. We do have one gentleman in a motorized wheelchair that's been sleeping out there for a while, and we've allowed that. But that's currently what's happening at the building right now, is navigation services. And of course, once the city declares a state of emergency, and if we move down that path and we get funding, we'd love to be an emergency warming center there as well.
And you already have the 20 pallet shelters, and you're working on getting them set up in the back?
Correct.
And your goal is still to give preference to the elderly and disabled for those?
Correct. And partner hopefully with the hospital too on hospital discharges, because sometimes, you know, if we can get those them housed right away, they have significantly better health outcomes.
Rick?
Kathy, there's been a discussion about also Washington and that site. Do you have a feeling of comparison as if this site you were currently at didn't work out, how the other would work for you?
You know, I think there are pros and cons. I don't know how we took a lot of thought and were very strategic in how we approached our neighborhood. And, you know, we had very little adversity and we seem to be settling in. That's really hard to do. And so the thought of moving sites is frightening to me. And I do know that there are people at the top of town that would not be very supportive of the concept. So, you know, full transparency with knowing that and knowing that there's new council coming in, like it gives me, you know, that would be a concern. The pros to that place is it's beautiful, right? And it's big and it would be less capital to fix. And potentially we could serve more people if there's a demand in the community for that. But again, you know, there's amazing pros at Parker's Place as well. You know, the unhoused community already know it. They're invested in that building. You know, they clean it up out front and stuff. And so, yeah. And our neighbors don't hate us, or at least if they do, they don't tell me.
Thank you.
Any other questions right now? Rob?
So I'm just trying to be clear. So piggybacking on Rick's question, so at the north end of town, that's not Mint owning the property, right? That's basically
No, that would
rental.
need to be a lease.
Right, exactly. So if I understand correctly what you said earlier, if you own the property, it's potentially more likely or easier for you to get grants for remodel and so forth than if you rented a property. Didn't you just say that, or no?
It's just that in order to qualify for grants, you know, people want to know that there's a long-term investment, and when you're renting the property, there's a lot of risk associated with that, and so we just don't qualify for a lot of those funds.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions right now? All right. Well, thank you for being here. I guess just to the council, I guess what I envision happening here, we do have some people who wanted to speak on both the subject and the library. We'll do that during public comment, which is coming up very soon here. And then if we want to bring these up again and have some discussion and direction, we'll have that during the comments from mayor and council, which again shouldn't be very far down the road here because we don't have much on the agenda tonight. So with that, we do have appointment right here before public comment, and then we'll take public comment. So what we have here is an opening on the Tourism Advisory Committee, and we have one opening on the committee with 3 applicants in alphabetical order. They are Stephen Baxay, Christopher Culpepper, and Alicia Terrell. The qualifications for this position are as follows. This position is supposed to represent people representing river guides, area attractions, realtors, restaurants, the media, marketing, and citizens at large. 3 candidates have applied. The committee recommended Alicia Terrell. They said she's a good citizen and current endeavors in business affect tourism. She owns a strong locally owned business that supports locals and tourists. She has diverse experience with Travel Medford and the Medford Chamber of Commerce. Owning a restaurant hospitality business is an important voice to have on the committee, and she's active and engaged in her community. So council, if you would sign these, pass them down. Looks like you already did. Are they unanimous? Okay. Council is unanimously recommending Alicia Terrell for the position. Valerie, go ahead.
I'm going to make a motion that we appoint Alicia Terrell to the Tourism Committee.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Rick. Any discussion on that? All right. Valerie, you made the motion to appoint Alicia Terrell. How do you vote?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Brian has stepped away. Next up is public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to address the City Council on items not related to a public hearing or council action item. The intent is to provide information that is pertinent to the city's jurisdiction. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes to address the council as one body, not to individuals. This meeting will proceed in an effective and courteous manner. Citizens and council members will be allowed to state their positions in an atmosphere free from slander, threats, or other personal attacks. Signs or placards, outbursts of applause, campaigning for public office, or other disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. If you have a question regarding any government-provided service or a current city policy, please contact the city manager's office in an attempt to resolve the matter. And first up is Mike Murphy, and then we'll have Nathan Miller. Oh, okay. Council President's just asking me to remind everybody, we do have these blue cards. If you are wanting to speak during public comment tonight, there are some blue cards at the back of the room. Please fill one out and then bring it around to the city recorders over here at the end of the dais. And hang on, just there's a lot of movement in the room, so maybe we'll just wait a minute. Okay, well, everybody is still moving around a bit too. I'll just let you know that there is a light there on the podium. When the light turns to yellow, it means you have 30 seconds left, so don't panic. But when the light goes red, it means that your time is up. So please wrap up very quickly so I don't have to cut you off. And with that, go ahead, Mike.
Good evening, Mayor and councilors. I spent a lot of time in this room, and I have some idea about the challenges that you face. In my time, I was appointed to the City Council twice, once from the Southwest Ward and once from the Northeast Ward. I was elected 3 times and then served as an elected mayor for a term. So at one time or another, I believe I sat in every one of those chairs. One of the things I learned is that there's never enough money and there's never enough time to address all the issues that you need to be addressing. But I'm here tonight to tell you that I absolutely believe that supporting the downtown community library is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. There will always be naysayers that will jump over chairs to tell you why it can't be done, why it's too expensive, why it isn't needed. But there's also opportunities. This downtown library project is not just a wish list or a nice to have kind of project. It goes much deeper than that. It is the opportunity to partner with other organizations and a wide swath of the public who have given and continue to give their time and money to sustain and build something that will have a lasting impact and a legacy in this community. This project is urban renewal. It is the very definition of urban renewal. And if we have the means, the tools to make it happen, let's do it. I urge you to support the library as a catalyst urban renewal project. Extend and enhance our downtown, which is critically important and always charming. Think beyond today. Think about it in terms of 5 years, 10 years, and 30 years from now. In doing so, you will show both the leadership and vision, and we will demonstrate to future generations.
The time went off, I'm sorry, have to cut you off.
Oh, that's harsh.
I know, the 2 minutes goes fast. I'm sorry.
She's not sorry.
Nathan Miller and then Winnie.
All right, I'm Nathan Miller. I'm a resident of Grants Pass. I'm also a downtown business owner. I have somewhat of a unique business for our area in that we have a traded sector software development company here in town. We're a little bit different from the typical businesses in Grants Pass. The Walmarts and the Costcos, for example, they provide a service, but they take all the money out of town. Everything that's sold, all the profits go to wherever their headquarters is. Restaurants and shops, they serve a purpose, but they're trading money. It's one person gives them money, they give it to the next person. Traded sector company like ours is a little bit different because it brings all of the money comes into town. It enriches our community. And our business is growing like crazy. So we're doing well. We're bringing a lot of funds in here. We're hiring people. We're paying them very, very well. And we continue growing very fast. One of the problems we have is acquiring talent. So when we want to hire a systems engineer, database engineer, someone on the technical side, there's not a lot of that talent here, and we do have to look elsewhere. And so far, I have never been successful in getting someone from an urban area like Portland or Bend or the Bay Area to move up here. I think we're doing a lot of good things in this town that's going to make that possible, but the library being downtown, I think that's going to be immensely helpful. I think that's a solid project. It would be very helpful for businesses like ours, and I think our city needs more businesses like ours in this town. I also love the idea that the library, the location where they've chosen, is going to help bridge the gap between our downtown historic district and the river district. I think it's a really good thing. So please do support the library any way you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Winnie, and then Ruth Daly. No, Winnie? All right, well, we'll move on to Ruth Daly and then David O'Rourke.
Good evening, council, staff. My name is Ruth Daly. I live in Grants Pass, and I'm here to speak in support of helping Mint run a shelter. It's been kind of a teary day for me. This was the same kind of day, I would say, about 6 years ago, than when my son was on the street, that I came across him. It wasn't freezing out, but he was soaking wet. He was frozen, shaking, and he said, "Mom, I don't think I'm going to make it." And I was able to take him home and stick him in a tub and warm him up. There was no shelter for him to go to. I think these wonderful women were on the street, Tina and Donna, helping people out then, but there wasn't a place for people to go in to get warm and to rest and get out of this kind of weather. It's awful out there right now.
Could the people in the back step out if you need to have a conversation, please?
If you've been to J Street, it's pretty much like a lake with the wind. Tents have blown off. They've lost their shelter. It's freezing. People can't get warm. The Mint Navigation Center was full today, and that's going to get fuller, and we need to be able to have something that people can go to on a regular basis. My children were raised in this town. They went to 4-H, all the things in the town. You saw my grandson, and my son just picked him up. My son's doing wonderfully because there were people around to help him when he was ready to do that. He was in crises. We were a family in distress, and communities help the families that have lived here and that need help. So I hope you vote to help Mint. Thank you.
David O'Rourke and then Mike Pelfrey.
Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of you know me, and if you don't, you will. You've known what I've done prior to taking my sabbatical. You've known what I've done for the police department. Many of you know me, and some of you don't. And again, you will get to know me. If you've heard the recording I did prior to my sabbatical, you know I have ideas for this county, or this community. I love this community. This is my home. During my sabbatical, I've been taken advantage of. In that process, the Mint has given me that moment of clarity to be warm, to have some resources. When I have back control, I've written hundreds of movies and TV shows, and I have finances that you don't, and I do. And if you know me, you know how I work. As far as my financial support, when I have control of my finances, again, I will make things happen for the library, for Mint, for this community, as I will build this community with you guys and to work together. Short and sweet, thank you very much. We'll be speaking soon.
Thank you, Mike Pelfrey, and then we'll have Bob McGuire.
Mike Pelfrey, city resident. I would like to recommend, I don't not support Mint, but I think that it's pretty sad that Mint is the only nonprofit that comes up to this podium. I don't get it. I keep hearing that we have this long list of nonprofits, but why is it always Mint? And again, nothing against Mint, but why isn't other nonprofits stepping up to the plate and helping these folks? There's a lot of empty hotel rooms, and how is it that these people, if they're in such dire need with a community like we have, where are the Christian church or any church organizations? Why haven't they opened their doors? I can tell you one of the reasons why. And the reason why is because most of these people have been burned by the vagrancy that's in this town. You know, in the old days, churches would open their doors and allow people to come in and seek shelter, and they would feed them. But guess what? They're not going to do that because this city has allowed vagrancy to just completely be out of control. So what I would like to recommend is that let's get our vagrancy problem taken care of, get the vagrants the hell out of our town, and then once we get them out of our town, we can actually help people that need help. Those people, when I speak of vagrants, they're literally like sponges sucking the resources from all of these people that actually need it. So, and then I also implore the city, and or I should say the city council, please don't make any rash decisions just because you're leaving office, okay? That's what Joe Biden did, and you see what that did. Thank you.
Bob McGuire, and then Catherine Hamilton. All right, Catherine. And then Del Aldridge.
Catherine, Hamilton County. The last time I stepped foot for personal reasons into a public library was almost 50 years ago. Not to cap on it, not to say we don't need it, not to say it's not necessary, but I kind of look at it like a manual transmission car. There's a very small group out there that can do it, that understand it, that want it. This looks like a Taj Mahal to me. But my main gripe, of course, is the homeless. We are warm, we are dry. They're not. And it's not just that they're getting rained on. They're swimming. I don't agree with a whole lot of them that are out there. Something's got to be done. Mint is in the trenches. Mint is trying. Mint is busting their booties trying to help these folks. Anything anybody can do to help Mint, I think is wonderful. Something's got to be done. This is not, again, that anyone agrees with 100% of what's going on, but this is nowhere near right. Something, please. It's temporary, Band-Aid. Something, folks. Thank you.
Del Aldridge, and then Sam Engel.
Del Aldridge, city resident. God, it's been 2 years. I've been coming here well over 2 years, 6 months. And I've talked and talked and talked, and the voters made that happen. They made a change. But do me a big favor, don't sit on your laurels. Nobody's got the answer to this problem, this homeless problem. The biggest thing is drugs. I think if we got rid of the drugs, we'd have a great town, and we'd get the homeless taken care of. Mint is the first and only nonprofit I've seen come up here and give you numbers. Nobody else is, and nobody's in line to do it, which doesn't make sense. They got all the funding they need down in Medford. We need to put rules in effect. Chief, you said there was 22 carts in that, shopping carts in that homeless camp. Why aren't all the fences are covered with things again? That's a rule. They don't want to follow rules. I said last time, put a gate, you're going to get something started there, but just put a sign on the front of the gates. No drugs allowed, or you will be prosecuted the full extent of the law. Now here's where the law gets a problem. We have a county and a city. They don't work together. They never have. We have 4 new counselors coming in here, and I want to see a day where all 4 counselors and 2 mayors sit here in one room, not this room, someplace, and talk about the homeless problem. Because I'm sure they don't have the answers, neither do you. Nobody's got the answers. Tell me one place in the United States where they fixed their homeless problem. They haven't. So whatever we do, we can work on it. Work on it together. Don't say I'm not going to do something because I'm only here for another couple of months. No, do something. They will back you if you put them in the same room together. I think that's what we really need, is work together as a team. Get the county involved. Because you know something? You arrest a guy for breaking into houses with a hard hat on, and 3 times just out of jail, and the next day he's out on the street again. That's where the county needs to help us. Get the jail and the prosecution or the district attorney working with us.
Dell and then Shoni Nelson. Or excuse me, Sam Engel and then Shoni Nelson.
Hi, Sam Engel. I live about 2 blocks from here. I've been part of the community since 2007. I really like Grants Pass. We've got some great things here. We've got some really amazing people. You've probably heard we've got a nursing shortage. Cassie Leach, we have a Cassie Leach. Cassie is willing to go down as a nurse and put in her own time for years. And Cassie had a tremendous reputation in healthcare for doing this work before we were having these conversations, before COVID, years ago. 2 doctors are part of Mint. Doctors don't come cheap. The value of the volunteer effort that Dr. Nelson, Dr. Murray, Tim Robbins, I'm so sorry. Tim, we've got 3 doctors who are putting their time and energy into making this community better because they want to, because they see it. Doctors Without Borders is something that Dr. Murray had done when he came back and he saw the state of Josephine County, the state of Grants Pass, and he realized that the work that is so important abroad is right here. We have the same level of suffering happening, and we're lucky enough to have people who want to do something to make it better. And I think we take that for granted. We talk about the cost of this and the cost of that, but we forget how much this community is given for free on a daily basis by people who are working really, really hard. And then they're told that they're not doing it well enough, or they're not doing it often enough, but they're blocked constantly. And there's a huge difference between people who are showing up on a regular basis because they want to do something, and people who are going to show up and take their time and their energy to say that they are critical. They're going to come up and criticize people who are working so hard to do something. I said that really badly, but you know exactly what I meant. You've heard the quote. There's a lead and there's a get out of the way, and we need a lot of folks to get out of the way and just let people do the hard work and get something done. And it's a very human issue. We know we have people struggling and suffering, and we know we have people who are getting better because of the work that's happening, and I'm just urging you to please support Mint and let them do their good job. Thank you.
Shoni Nelson, then Doug Walker.
Shoni Nelson, Grants Pass resident. And first and foremost, I'm a parent, okay? Got 2 toddlers. And what started me in this was going through a park that I was used to, and my son ended up drinking piss out of a big gulp. That's what started me on this trail, which led me to Park Watch, which led me, I always want to help children and parents, okay? That's where I'm at. That's what I want to do. I'm a content creator. And I was filming at J&M Mill, all right? I want to also meet nonprofits. I would love to have one. I would love to get one going because it's about helping. Now, Mint, my first time, I had only known them through Park Watch, and it was a negative experience. It was a talk about enabling, leading to disabling, okay? And so I had that in my mind. I still wanted to meet them. And what I got when I met them, I think we need to work on seeking to understand and be kind. Do not judge. So I am there at J&M Mill because it is my First Amendment right to film in public. I am filming when someone assaults me with a camera. There's a difference, okay? We have what's called around us space. If you invade my space, I've taught martial arts for a very long amount of time. So when you come at me, it's really hard for me not to choose other caveats, okay? So when you shove your phone in my face, there's a problem, and we need to work on that. Especially if you look at me and you go, what is your agenda? My agenda is to help children and family. whether they be homeless, whether they be hungry, that's where I'm at. And I am in the middle of this because I am working with Park Watch, okay, which has different views. And then you have the homeless, which has different views. And I'm working with both. That's where I'm at. And then it's interesting when I want to help people, but yet the other people there called Mint that want to help people, you got it.
Thank you. Looks like we have Bev Walker.
Hi. First off, I want to say I'm Bev Walker, Doug's wife. And when I'm up here, I hear things that are repeated over and over again, the complaints and so forth. And you guys are just such good listeners to hear them over and over and over. I'm really impressed. So anyway, I did write something. I'm proud of Doug. I think he's amazing, and thank you for honoring him. I want to say thanks to the mayor and the councilors, especially those that are leaving. Thanks for all your hard work. In watching the forums before the election, I was impressed with how knowledgeable you all are. All of you counselors, the research and the preparation was apparent when you spoke. Those running against you didn't seem to be as aware of the laws and the boundaries that they must work within. If they weren't listening to you explain those laws over and over again and the boundaries, I would suggest a good thing to go back and look and review those forums or some of those recordings, and I think they might pick up some good information to go forward. In those forums, they sounded a lot like the people here that are complaining, lacking solutions. I hope that there is something that the incoming counselors and the mayor could attend, whether it be an ethics class or even an operational type class, to get them up to speed so they can get started right away with these issues you guys are working on. Thank you, Doug, and thank you to the council for all of the work you have put into the city. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Cassie. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Darren Starnes and Donna Wall.
Hello, my name is Darren Starnes. I'm a local resident of 35 years. I have been homeless as of the last little over 2 years. I've met Cassie and what was to become the Mint organization approximately a little over a year and a half ago. I know nothing of logistics, laws, finances. I'm just a person. I was asked to come here and speak today as one of their would-be success stories. I have, since being in their care, basically had my life saved by them at least 3 times. They have helped me get my Social Security. They are now in the process of helping me to be housed. I do not smoke any white substance or anything of that nature. I have my own physical, mental health problems. They have struggled trying to find ways to help me because of my health problems. There were not other organizations out there for the elderly or the disabled. It's all about drug and alcohol rehab. They've done what they can, the best they can in a very short amount of time to help someone like myself and many others. We are all very diverse. We have many different health and mental problems. They are doing their best. I would suggest helping them. Thank you.
Donna Wald and Chris Underwood.
Good evening. So I'm Donna Wall. I'm the Director of Dove Ministries. We go out to J Street once a week. Mint's not the only ones that are out there. In fact, I respect so much of what Mint's doing. I think you guys need to say okay to them because it sounds like they have a great plan. But for us, We go out there every Wednesday. We have a group of volunteers. We work in collaboration with St. Vincent de Paul's and other community members. Our volunteers served over 500 meals out there in October. And we also provide peer support, prayer, counseling services. We work with Southern Oregon Pathways. We've reached more than 20 individuals in October, have them involved in counseling services, and we're able to get 4 people into residential recovery services and leave homelessness behind. So we are doing a heck of a lot too, with no funding from the public. Thank you.
Chris Underwood and then Helen Cruz.
I'm Chris Underwood. I'm a resident here and have been for most of my life, and I also work in the nonprofit sphere. I am here to advocate for Mint's Navigation Center and shelter. Part of the reason it's important, I've been hearing a lot of, first it was we need to get the people out of our parks. No solutions were offered there. Mint came up with a solution. Then it was, we need to get people out of J Street. Still no solutions. And now it's, what are these other nonprofits doing? The people that are making these comments are not involved in what we're doing. Mint doesn't do this by themselves. There's group chats, there's meetings. All of the nonprofits in this town are working collaboratively to try to make this work, and Mint is making that happen for us. I'm tired of hearing people complain about what we're doing and not offer any solutions. I appreciate that you guys have sat and listened to us and taken into consideration what we're actually doing. The Navigation Center is so crucial. To have a space that all of the nonprofits can go to do additional work. I work for another nonprofit and I'm there twice a week. Also, we need the library. Thank you.
All right, Helen Cruz and then Victoria Marshall.
Hi, Helen Cruz, City of Grants Pass resident for over 50 years now. I'm very actively involved with the homeless community, and I would like to say that you guys would be very foolish not to help out with Mint, first of all, and any other nonprofit that comes to you, because these people are the only ones that are basically saving your butts, okay? They are taking care of a problem that you guys have put a Band-Aid on to a wound that you have not felt the pain of. You do not go out there day by day, and you don't know what is going on out there. People are living in 3 foot of water at J Street right now. They have no means of shelter, no means of drying their clothes, of getting warm. They have no means. And you know what? When we go down to the Freedom, I know just last Sunday, somebody was told they had to go because they were impeding traffic. It's a dead-end street. And they turned a person away who was feeding a hot meal to a homeless person. Is that what we want our city to be known for? I mean, really? Any of you been out there yet? Any of you lived out there yet? It's called lived experience. And until you live it and you experience it, you're not going to know how to fix it. And thank God for these Mint and these nonprofits, because they're the only ones that are stepping up for you guys. Because they know what's going on out there. You don't. So any kind of help that they ask you guys for, I suggest you give it to them.
Victoria Marshall and then Doug Walker.
The use of good evening, by the way. The use of urban renewal taxing district funds for a new public library when a library already exists in the community raises key fiscal and resource allocation concerns. First, urban renewal funds are specifically designated for revitalizing and redeveloping blighted areas, promoting economic growth, and enhancing conditions in underdeveloped parts of the city. Allocating these funds to build another library will divert critical resources away from pressing urban renewal projects that address immediate needs such as infrastructure and local business support. Further, a new library would not create the tax base in the district because it is not taxable, defeating the purpose of an urban renewal district. Moreover, with a library already in place, the argument for a new one must be compelling enough to justify pulling funds from their intended purpose, without a substantial case for why a new library would serve a unique or unmet need, especially when an adequate one already exists. Such an expenditure appears redundant and misaligned with the core objectives of the Urban Renewal Initiative. Additionally, at the most current urban renewal presentation, approximately 18 people were there, and not many of those were a part of the urban renewal district. That is a very small number. It does not represent anywhere near the amount of people who would need to be represented in order to make that decision. Because much more input and information is needed, it would be unwise to make a decision concerning funding for a new library at this time. Thank you.
Doug Walker. And then Chris McGee.
Hi, Doug Walker, resident Grants Pass. I'm in favor of urban rural area dollars being used for the library and for Mint. And when you all are considering that issue, I'd like to offer a little bit of a sort of an analogy to think about that. And that, it kind of goes like this. When a person or a business or a municipality, school district, when they're smart and successful, they have sort of something in common. They invest in themselves. A person will go to college, will get new training, will get new skills, they'll save money to buy a house. A business will reinvest in itself, they'll get new products, they'll train up their employees. I go to lumber yards a lot, so I can give you examples of lumber yards that have failed in town and those farmers and fields that have done well, and they have something in common, they invest in themselves. Cities need to do the same thing. They need to invest in themselves. And the sooner they do that, the sooner a person puts himself through college, the sooner a person buys a house, the sooner a city invests in itself through things like libraries and Mint and other activities, water treatment plants, the better we are. And so I would say, please consider that analogy when trying to make a decision about this sort of thing. The sooner you invest in things, the sooner we get past that, get on to other issues. Thanks.
All right, last one, Chris McGee.
Good evening, City Council. First thing, I would like to thank all of you for what you do for the city, for the community. My name is Chris McGee, and my colleague Garth Finley, that is right behind me, we're representatives for the Western States Regional Council of Carpenters. Mainly, I wanted to come here and introduce ourselves. So I've been working in the construction industry for over 30 years. The skill set I do have is due to the training I've received. So with that said, state accredited apprenticeships provide hands-on experience and skill development, which are crucial for preparing a skilled workforce in the construction sector. You know, college isn't for everyone. Studies have shown that cities with mandatory apprenticeship utilization on public projects, not only does it increase the employment rates and project quality, not to mention community wealth. I would definitely like to have an opportunity to further this discussion in the future. But again, thank you for your time, and again, thank you for what you do. And can I leave my card with one of you?
Karen, we'll take it over here at the end.
Thank you.
All right, that is the end of our public comment tonight. We have real quick the consent agenda, and then we'll come back to items from mayor and council. Can we put the consent agenda up on the screen? There we go. And Council President, would you please read the consent agenda?
Item A, resolution adopting procedures for public meeting grievances. Item B, resolution authorizing the city manager to execute change order number 4 with Robertson Sherwood Architects PC for property survey and geotechnical report stage 1, project number LB 6393. Item C and through G are various motions Item C is a motion acknowledging the receipt of the monthly investment report for October of 2024. And items D through G are various meeting minutes, acknowledging the Collaborative Economic Development Committee, the Tourism Advisory Committee, the Bikeways and Walkways Committee, and the Urban Area Planning Commission. And with that, I move to approve.
Is there a second? Seconded by Valerie. All right, we don't discuss the consent agenda, so Vanessa, you made the motion to approve. How do you vote?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. And that brings us to the items from mayor and council. So I apologize for the kind of weird order of things here tonight, but let's talk for a moment about the library first. I guess the reason why I put this on the agenda tonight is because we do have it coming up pretty soon here, I think maybe at our next meeting, to discuss the 5-year implementation strategy for the Urban Renewal Agency, as well as just kind of the idea of whether or not we wanted to define a catalyst project. So I just wanted to see whether there was any interest on the council to pursue making any amendments before we address those issues. Valerie, you look like you want to say something?
Yes. Yes, I feel very strongly that the purpose of the urban renewal, I do understand, is to a collaboration between public and private. I also do know that one of the keys is to clean up blighted areas. I also know that one of the large goals for the 9 years that I have been and beyond that is to, and councils before that, is to clean up the area between the river and downtown and to make that more, to make a more cohesive area in our town. So I personally think that by investing in putting it as a catalyst project, it's not a financial obligation. They are in their urban renewal districts, so they have certain privileges being a part of that automatically can happen without them being a catalyst project. So they can get things, but I also feel that in the community, investing in a library is imperative. It's my understanding that the county wants to use the current library for other purposes. So in terms of saying that we already have a library, we have a library for another year. Not a forever library. And if you've been in that library and you've seen that library and you've brought your children down to that library, there is one plug-in in the children's department. It is an obsolete building that needs to be rehabbed. And what we really need is a showcase in our community to say that we invest in our children and learning. And I think this is a great way for the community to come together and back that. Like I said, this is not a financial commitment. This is just saying, yes, we see the value of having the library be a part of the catalyst project that can help unify the river and downtown. So I would like to see that brought forward, an amendment to the Urban Renewal Agency. And so I don't know if you can move that tonight or whether we need to do that at the meeting when we discuss it. I'm not sure where that goes.
I think we need to do it at a future meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can provide direction for us to do something. We would schedule it for a future business meeting. There'd be, notifications that we would need to provide.
Yes, yeah. And I do understand that there is a notification, but I think it's a great opportunity for the community to come forth and show the commitment. And so I would expect that would happen. So I would like to give the direction to have you move in that direction.
Other councilors? Vanessa?
I will second that sentiment. I also think that it's worth investing in and amending the project list. I think it's really similar to the Makerspace Hub that we currently have on the list. So that is already a line item that we have chosen to invest and prioritize as a council. And I don't see a library being much different than a makerspace, as outlined by a gentleman who owns a small business, that libraries often do work in the same way as makerspace hubs. And I think it's especially easy decision to make when we have any discussions about bringing tax dollars back to our community. Our community often is siphoned tax dollars and doesn't receive a lot back. So if we have that opportunity to bring them back, I think that that's a really easy decision to make. I also would support an amendment.
Okay, Rob?
I would support an amendment. That doesn't necessarily mean I have a dollar amount or that there should be a dollar amount in the future, but I think that there should be discussion in the future regarding. And I can tell you that, I've been downtown 6 days a week, or close to 6 days a week, for almost 30 years. And there's a number of events that happen downtown that don't benefit my business personally. And before I was on council, I spoke at the podium several times, and I might be something, I could have something negative to say about those events. But once I'm seated at the dais, I'm wearing a different hat, and that is what's beneficial for the community. And it would seem to me that the half dozen or so businesses that are on the J Street property now are small, they're not very robust, and I don't think that they bring a lot of foot traffic or a lot of people coming into our downtown that are going to be spending money at other businesses or spending any appreciable time downtown. I think the library would absolutely do that. As several other people mentioned, there is a gap between our beautiful river area and our historic downtown. Having a walking destination between those two, I think, would be beneficial to the entire area. The one concern I have, and I know it's not a time to really talk about, but I will throw it out now, is that each little, we'll call it ecosystem within the city or within the downtown, kind of has its own little parking ecosystem, I would say. And I wouldn't want to see, because that J Street property now, there's a lot of available parking for these surrounding businesses. I'd like to see the library in the future looking at the benefit of the entire area, allowing at least half of their parking spaces to be used or allowed to be used for the surrounding businesses, so that there's really no negative to those surrounding businesses, because I see a lot of positive that can come from a library there. And again, it's not me personally talking, but that's what I think is beneficial for the entire town.
Rick?
My wife and I use the library on a weekly basis, and we've been in town 50 years, and our kids grew up going to the library. I think it's an essential part of the community. I would be supportive of additional discussion and consideration on the Urban Renewal District. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Sorry, we're having a procedural conversation over here, real quick.
So what the mayor and I were talking about was, what ultimately council's intent is in supporting the library. And so there's really two different ways the Urban Renewal Agency can support the library. Currently right now, the library would be able to utilize we have about 17 different programs associated with the Urban Renewal Agency. Looking at the presentation they did today, there are a number of aspects of our Urban Renewal Agency where they could apply for and we could grant dollars for them. They have a large public space area. They have parking that needs to be done. They have maybe some infrastructure, some lateral infrastructure that needs to be taken care of. All of those things are things that the Urban Renewal Agency can help the library with. And those are some large costs associated with getting that in there. So those are open and available to them now. So when you adopt your 5-year plan, Urban Renewal dollars are available to them if the Urban Renewal Agency wants to do that, without any modification of your master plan. If you want to actually have it characterized as a catalyst project, there are some requirements that we have to do. We can't unilaterally just put that in the plan. We have to notify other taxing districts. We have to get approval to do that, to make that work. That's going to take some time, but we can make that happen. And then it could be listed also as a catalyst project within the plan. So there's two different ways to support. One, we already have support. They have available funds. And at some point in a future meeting, if you'd like, we could try to we can provide you more details on what funding mechanisms in the plan can already support the library's project. And then that maybe help you decide what level of support you want to provide for the library and what method and path you want to take.
DJ and then Vanessa.
I'm willing to entertain that conversation at a later meeting.
Vanessa.
To answer the question, I would support putting the library as a line item in the URA as a catalyst, because then it opens up the larger grants as stated earlier in the presentation.
So I guess the interest is to have it listed as a project within the urban renewal and not, because I guess my concern is that we have the 5-year implementation strategy meeting coming up. Do we need to maybe postpone that or talk about this issue at that date? I think it's on the very next meeting. I don't have a future agenda in front of me.
Is it on the December 4th
December
meeting?
4th.
Mhm.
It's on the December 4th.
The 5-year implementation strategy is.
Okay.
Did you already speak, Vanessa?
Yes.
Or did you have something to say?
I did already.
Oh, okay, thanks, Dwayne.
Seems like this is going outside where it's supposed to be. Needs to go to a different discussion so we can figure out which way this is going. So we're having like this big debate over a presentation today, which is, I don't think is aligned with what the meeting was supposed to be. So.
Yeah, the intent is just to get the council's direction on what to do before we get our agenda straightened up, I guess, for the future meeting.
Yeah.
Valerie?
Yeah, I guess if it's, I mean, I wasn't sure that it was on the December 4th. I mean, I just think that I would like to discuss it and have it discussed December 4th.
December 4th.
And December 4th, at that time, you know, we could, if we wanted to do that, you're saying that what we have to do is start the process, correct? If we want to put it under the plan, or that's what I'm unsure of.
December 4th, you've got your 5-year plan that you're looking at adopting.
Okay.
That would need to be, at that
Amended?
time, you would not be able to just add the library. We could
Okay.
provide you with information on how the 5-year plan or our current plan itself can support the library and potential dollar amounts or something along those lines. That's one item that could be discussed as part of your 5-year plan. And then if you want to, and you could still adopt your 5-year plan. And then you would need to, and if you want to do a catalyst and actually label them as a catalyst project in your master plan, then that will take some notification and then another meeting.
Okay.
And then after that meeting, you can go back and amend your 5-year plan if you wanted to and add that to it. Or so you can make all those things happen.
Okay. Okay, so it sounds like we'll discuss it December 4th.
Brian?
I just had a couple questions about that, because a couple years ago, we added Caveman Pool to the list. Did we have to go out to the taxing districts and get approval?
No, that was not actually, according to Oregon Revised Statutes, a requirement because I believe it fell under recreational facility. And recreational facilities are not needed to have that requirement.
Okay. And then as far as procedurally for informing the other taxing districts, what kind of timeline is associated with that?
I believe that is a 45-day timeline. That's after we give them notice and then the opportunity, and then that's the time frame for once a hearing is set. So, you know, we could do it two ways. We could just do a sort of more informal solicitation, you know, to see if the RCC board, et cetera, want to, or you would just set the hearing, and then that's the time frame for them to actually give comment.
Okay, thank you.
Vanessa?
I don't think I quite understood the last part of what you said. Would you mind restating that?
So there, in terms of, as Aaron was talking about, amending the urban renewal plan and adding the library as a project where urban renewal funds would actually go to the building itself, not to the street infrastructure. So to go to Aaron's point, then that is what requires the taxing district notification, and that's what requires the 45 days so that they have the opportunity to review and then give us formal opinion. And if you don't get the top 4 taxing districts to agree, then it cannot be added.
I didn't understand what you meant about the informal notification part, that they could receive informal notification and then give their formal notification?
Well, I think that would just be an option, just more of a, kind of a partnership kind of approach rather than a more legal approach, if that makes sense, to just sort of, if you wanted to just solicit the opinion, say, would you consider it? And then they could kick it around without having to sort of formally make a decision.
Okay.
Obviously, that would require more timeline, though.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sounds like we could discuss this again on December 4th. Then sounds like there's at least some interest in working with the library and the URA request. The second topic then regarding Mint's request for funds to help potentially purchase that Parker Place building. Somebody want to talk? You want me to talk? Valerie?
I guess I can talk. I can talk. I've done it very well most of my life. Anyway, I will just say I am firmly in support of doing something with Mint. I mean, I've heard the argument that other, incoming people have said, we all recognize that we need something, and we do. And I've heard the comment, well, we need to get more nonprofits involved. Well, we have done RFPs and RFPs and RFPs. I cannot tell you how many meetings I have sat with local nonprofits, as has the mayor, as has other people on this. And I've had this discussion. There is not any floating people out there waiting to jump in and run a campground. Sam Ingalls, I mean, we worked so hard to get a rogue retreat here. And then because of financial issues they had, they couldn't do it, which raised a red flag for us that we don't want to get ourselves into that red flag situation. And in a way, it was probably a blessing that it happened and the timing was right, because we recognized that there's costs involved. And the city does not have the money to run a campground. I think we all know that. We don't have the money to support our police department. And that is our true job. So we don't have the money, and yes, drugs and all those things require more public safety workers and fire. We know that. Those are the meat of what we need in this community. So I truly believe that is our first priority. But we also have this grassroots organization that has come to our rescue over and over and over again. And they have been there to do the groundwork. And I can be nothing but thankful for what they have done over and over and over again. So to me, and yes, I won't be returning to city council, I want to end something that's been going on for 4 years, longer than 4 years. And I know that, some of you would like us to put a hold on things and say, well, let's give them the opportunity to start over. Well, let me tell you, I'm tired. I've been on this 9 years. It hasn't happened in 4 years. And if you think you're going to walk in and make it happen, I got news for you. It's not that easy. You have no idea the amount of time that goes into council, the committees that you go to, the liaisons and the networking that you do in the community. They're doing the work for us. And so I will do anything I can. If that means going to ARPA, if that means trying to get JC to stand up and say, gee, what about that money that whatever here and here? I support helping them get Parker Place. I don't support stepping out and renting a building and coming up with $1.3 million for the next 5 years, because I don't know where that is, and that's kind of up to you. We can't make that decision for you. And I think that if we were to make that decision, it would probably be turned around. And that would be no good for anybody. But I would like to finalize something that has been a problem. And yes, J Street is a disaster. Nobody here wants J Street. There's not a single person up here that is going, rah, rah, we stuck them out there in that hellhole. No, we're not. But we knew people wanted them out of the parks. We heard that loud and clear. And that's another, thank you, Park Watch. Thank you for being a grassroots organization that stepped to the plate. That's what we need. We need grassroots to step up to the plate and do the dirty work. Park Watch did it, and Mint did it. And I think we need to give them the tools to continue what they're doing. And if that means we scrounge and come up with that one-time money to get them Parker's Place so they have some place that they can utilize to get more funding through state and federal, we have worked so hard to get money from state and federal. And if you don't have anything up and running, you don't get it. Medford gets it. You know why they get it? Because they have a program that's up and running. Roseburg gets it. You know why? They have a program that's up and running. We don't have a program that's up and running. So let's give them the tools so that they have something to work with so that the future council will have a nonprofit that can get more money from the places that it needs to come from to move. And I say, well, the churches should do it. But you know something? For 3 years now, we've had a grassroots path, a grassroots organization that put together funding, not a funding, but a program for people to park cars in churches. They haven't stepped up to the plate. You can't make them step up to the plate. I don't know what you think you're going to do if you're going to go start knocking on doors at the churches and saying, you have to do this. No, it doesn't work like that. So I'm just saying, we have somebody who's doing something. Let's support them so they can continue to do that.
Dwayne and then Joel.
I'm going to read something because I feel like the churches are getting beat up, and I don't think it's fair because a lot of them support the Gospel Rescue Mission. And I was just sent this text by Brian Boteller, in charge of the mission. They serve over 400 people every year. They graduate, they take 100 people off the streets and put them into houses every year. They leave there making $32,000 per year. That means they put back into the community $3.2 million. That's over $100 million per, every 10 years or something like that. I'm not going to keep reading all this. They do drug and alcohol counseling. So let's stop beating up on the churches and this stuff because they do support the mission. They are a partner in this thing, and I never hear me come in here and go, oh, the mission does things. This came from Brian. He texted me this. He does good work there. They are a piece of the pie. I'm not saying Mint is the only piece of the pie or Brian's the only piece of the pie, but could we stop beating up on some people? I don't know, I agree with everybody, I think everybody does, but there is a lot of other people that just don't come here and talk and stuff. So there is people doing other things that are a piece of the pie. And we had the lady here, St. Vincent de Paul. And again, I know we all don't agree on something, but we need to stop beating up on the churches. And I think a lot of them give money to this mission or other groups, St. Vincent de Paul or the Catholic Church or whatever, So, and they have like 80 beds available right now. 80 beds. So if you don't want to sleep out there in the water, there's a spot for you. I'm sorry, there's a spot for you at the mission today. And they'll accept you. It's like you just can't do drugs. There's other things you can't do. But if you want to live out in the water, I guess you can. Or you can go to the mission and get out of the water. So there is places to go over here. There is things, and there's other groups doing other things. So, there's a lot of things going on. And I'm not saying I have all the answers or anybody to the right or left of me, but I just think there's a lot of money, and it's other people's money. It's taxpayers' money. So we have to be very careful. And from what I'm seeing out there, most of the problems are drug and alcohol abuse and stuff out there. The good people, they're not causing the problems. They're not. I spent an hour talking to Chief yesterday about all the problems out there in both sites. It's a disaster. And they're burglarizing, they're going through the city and doing all those things. Those are not the people I think most of us are talking about. But that's the problem we have is those people. We're not talking, most of us are talking about this good person that just wants to get home. But that's not our problems here in the city. Our problems are the people that are stealing, burglarizing, and doing that stuff. And I think most of us can say, hey, those are the people that we don't want to put up with. Let's help the people that want help, and the ones that are not, they need to be dealt with, because they're hurting everybody in this city.
Joel and Vanessa?
One of the things I think we need to do as a city is get out of the culture of blaming each other, because we're all in this together. And I think everybody would agree with that. And blaming me or blaming you or blaming, so I may get upset sometimes and say some things that are inappropriate. And please be gracious with me. But that is not the way for us to rule a city, and or to manage a city by blaming each other. And so as we go through out of this, I would hope that that culture part of us would change. And a lot of it's because we care so much, and then we think somebody else is getting in our way. And they have their own concerns as well. One of the things that struck me was this elephant in the room. I saw a post from the mayor who won a narrow election, and mayor-elect, and if I don't want to speak for him, but he said the same thing that most of us said up here in terms of a shelter, that we need to do a shelter. To stereotype each other, to blame each other is stupid. It's just plain stupid, and it's non-productive. And if you ever see me do that, you call me on that, because I do it too. Okay, and as we move forward, it seems like the biggest thing is there's this process when you're on the shooting range. You go set or go ready, set, fire, and it's a safety thing, and it's ready, aim, fire. Yeah, so you know where you're shooting, right? And I remember in the military, I was on the range, and the gun went off, and it went right by my foot. And those processes are designed to be safety processes. A lot of times we'll get in a hurry, and we'll go, ready, fire, and we won't aim. And then things don't go where they're supposed to, and that's what kind of happened with these unmanaged campgrounds. Ready, fire. And so we need to get together and have these common objectives that we have, that's been expressed by the mayor-elect, that's expressed by the present mayor, and we need to build that sense of teamwork within us to what is success, and be inclusive and not blame each other. Because that, to be honest with you, is just plain stupid. And I said enough. I apologize for talking too long.
Vanessa.
Unfortunately, this is a topic that is not new to us. It's something that we have been focused on and talking about for years. And in the time that we've been talking about it, we've learned that communities that have the most success in terms of managing homelessness and rehousing people are those that partner with their local nonprofits, that partner with, the county partners with the city, or the city partners with the county, as well as their state partners. And we finally have a group that is at our door, knocking on our door with plans and proposals and a proven track record that want to do this work in the community, which is something that we have been asking for, as Councillor Lovelace had said, through our RFP process in the past. And so the Parker's Place proposal before us tonight at an optimal operation would house about 100 people. And in terms of defining success, this is 100 less people that would be using public property for housing. And so we know that the J Street site is temporary. It has an expiration date, and it's coming soon. Certainly no one is advocating to keep it open for longer than necessary, but it is important that we have a place for people that do want the help to go to, so they're not on public land when that does happen. If we continue to manage homelessness in the same way that we are now, We will have spent the grant requests before us tonight in just 4 years' time, and that's in terms of the very minimum resources, trash, sanitation, restroom, fencing, etc. Or we can choose to manage this issue in a more effective way by supporting Mint to not only rehouse people, but also bring those tax dollars back to this town to support their operations into the future. That's a really important key part of this discussion, is that they are currently locked out of state and federal monies that would help grow their operations and make their operations successful. And so I would like to see this council give that necessary community buy-in, and I'd like to give city staff direction to reallocate ARPA funding from the swimming pool line to create a grant for Mint to purchase and own the building at 218 and 220 Redwood Highway, totaling the amount of $750,000.
Was that a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
The question is, can you do that tonight without
Well,
there being a
it's
public?
giving direction is the motion. Is there a second? Okay, is that a second from Joel, or are you? Okay, Valerie said she would second it. Okay, Joel, you have a comment.
So the reason it's taken so long is because we go fast to go slow. I've worked in the public arena for 35 years, and anytime you short circuit the process and you don't gain the consensus among the people and discuss it, you just end up doing it over. And guess what we've been doing for the last 4 years? We've been doing it over. And I wouldn't disagree with anything you said substance-wise, Vanessa, in terms of facts. The issue is not time. The issue is the issue. The issue is not time, and that we have to do it in a hurry. We do have to respect that, and we do need to get you help in time, which we can do, but the issue is the issue. The issue is not time. And if we think the issue is time, we'll end up doing it over, and people will be hurt.
Are there other hands? Rob?
I was saying to Dwayne earlier that given the rain situation, the wind situation, et cetera, I can't, in my rational mind, there's no logical reason why someone would not go to the gospel mission. Okay, that's fine. That's my rational mind. And but for whatever reason, and I have no idea why it is, the gospel mission doesn't have more customers. I don't know why they don't. So this is not an either-or situation. The gospel mission is going to help who they're going to help. Now, I've hired several people that stayed at the gospel mission, and a couple of them, quite frankly, got in their own way and ended up out of the mission, and also ended up out of my employ. One particular young guy, and I've spoken with Brian Botel about him, he's an awesome success story. I mean, he was fun to work with. He wasn't really appropriate for my business, and but he was a hard worker, there's no doubt about it. And I knew that he was going to do fine, and he ends up doing fine, and he's got a place to live, and that's awesome, you know. And matter of fact, he's a customer now too. He comes back as a customer, and it's wonderful to see. He had to go through the mission twice, but the second time it seems to have stuck, and he's done real well. But for whatever reason, they don't have a packed house full of customers. For whatever reason, and again, my rational mind says, get out of the rain and go to the mission. For some reason, though, they don't have a house full of customers. So if Mint can provide an alternative, somewhat similar business that has a different customer set, a different 100 people, great. Then the city is definitely won. We win with the mission, and for those people that want to get out of the rain and go there, and we win for whatever reason for the people that gravitate more towards Mint, because it's not either or. So to me, both things would be appropriate. I'd be excited to have both things, and I am very impressed with the persistence that Mint has, because they're on a short budget, very short budget. It's mostly, we'll call it sweat equity, And it's, you know, there's something to be said. There's a lot to be said for people that have that much heart and that much perseverance. Even if I wouldn't choose to be one of their customers, if I was in the rain, I would choose to be a Mission customer right now. Other people want to be their customer. That's wonderful. And I think that there should be a place on the council to support both.
Valerie.
Yeah, I didn't intend in any way to discount the Mission, because I do think they do a great job at what they do. I do know that they also work with Mint. I mean, I have had discussions with Mint, and when there's somebody that, you know, fits that, you know, they put them over there. She talks to Brian. So they are working together. So it doesn't have to be, you know, an either or. It's a community thing that, yeah, they do a great job of what they do, but they don't fit everybody. And I think that's just what we're saying. It's just the more we have that we can offer in our community, the better. I know.
DJ.
I got some. Thanks.
Okay, I think this discussion's getting bigger than we intended, but all things considered, I'm going to step outside of the boundaries of discussion with everybody else here, all things considered. I'm not willing to approve this motion in utilizing urban renewal dollars for something like this. However, something, Vanessa, that you said is that we are going to spend this money as a city equal to the purchase price of this property in the next 3 to 4 years, and the money that we've set aside from the general fund for these resting sites that I think we all want to get rid of. But in order to get rid of them, we need more supplement in this community. I think we can all agree on that. Going down that road, maybe with some clever financing, backed by the city, something along those lines as sort of a trade issue, knowing that, okay, we're not going to have to allocate those general fund monies to resting sites anymore if we had another supplementary service in this community. I could get behind something like that. So I'll be voting no on the motion, but I think there might be a clever solution in that understanding right there.
Can you read the motion to us again? Because I think the motion was not...
I need to speak to the motion.
Yeah, I was going to say it, because I
don't,
think we're unclear.
Just so you can help, if you do pass the motion, I think it may prohibit, it may prolong the actual implementation of the spirit of what you're trying to do.
Okay.
The reason for that is you're talking about ARPA dollars, right? Okay. One of the concerns with the ARPA dollars is the time frame. We need to have that solidified by December 24th. I don't know if this process can be solidified by December 20. By the end of the year.
December 31st.
That's my December 31st. I'm sorry. And so, if the intent of council is to backfill the ARPA dollars for the pool with general fund dollars, then that's just a transfer of funds. You might as well just use general fund dollars for what you're trying to do now for Mint, if you're just going to backfill the pool with general fund dollars, unless you're planning on cutting the pool budget by that amount, if that makes sense. So I think you're complicating things by the way the motion is presented right now. But I don't know your full intent, and we're sort of shooting at the hip right now. So from a staff perspective also, providing you information and this is happening really fast. So I'm just trying to also shoot from the hip with that information for you.
Well, we have been talking to staff about this for a week at least, but as far as the ARPA funds go, didn't we put all of the ARPA funds into a general pool so that they basically are allocated at this point?
Yeah, so let me just correct something that Erin said. Yes, we did a couple weeks back reallocate the unspent funds into government services, which gives us that flexibility to where we don't have to obligate it by December 31st of 2024. However, if you are going to utilize those ARPA funds and reallocate a project that you already have on the list, which the intent of the allocation still remained in that resolution, you would, yes, need to remove an allocation like the pool, and like Aaron said, thus potentially decreasing the budget of the pool.
And I think I'm sorry, is Dwayne first?
Go ahead, Val.
Okay. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm not so intent on saying that I have to ram it through, but I do think that we need to have the discussion on, and that's why I was trying to bring JC in earlier when I said, I want to know what options that we have. I mean, I look at the fact that, and this is what I've wondered myself, is when the program was put together where there was going to be, we were going to lease the building at the north end of town and pay to have that place put together. I had no idea where the money was coming from, but yet that was a proposal that came forward with no discussion of where that money was coming from. And to me, that was upsetting because it was just like, what do you mean? We've been saying for years we don't have any money. So instantly now we're coming up with saying that for 5 years we're going to come up with $1.5 million and lease a building. So to me, that made no sense. So it was just like, well, if the city was willing to step out on that thing, then there must be some way that we know would be able to come up with $700 and some thousand as a one-shot deal right now to get something rolling. And so that was where my thought pattern came from. And JC was not at the meeting of Monday, and I hope you were out doing something fun, but I just knew that he wasn't here to talk to. So I agree, we need to have that discussion.
Dwayne.
My question's for Aaron. It seems like we're, again, outside the parameters of this was a presentation, and now we're working on discussing motions to move money somewhere, and that would be the public weighing in on it and all this other stuff. So I feel like, again, we're not doing this properly and moving way too fast, and we need to go back and use the rules that are actually...
Again, it's just providing direction.
Well, this is still outside a presentation.
It's a business meeting. The council's in charge here.
I think
You're in charge because you put it on.
I think maybe to address this is, I think we're starting to try to get down to what color the interior walls are going to be and how big the kitchen sink is. So I think right now all you need to do is provide us direction that you are in support of providing grant dollars to Mint to secure a location.
Okay.
We will then have at a future either workshop or business meeting, however you so desire, information along with funding options, and at that meeting you would be able to solidify with resolution and direction on what funding sources to move forward with. And that would probably be the cleaner way to go about finishing this.
And I agree, so I don't know if that means I can rescind my second to do that. Would that be the best way to do it, is to ask if Vanessa's willing to rescind the motion that she put on the floor?
I'd like us to vote on this motion, please.
Okay, so I just want clarification on the motion. That's why I asked for clarification on the motion.
It was to reallocate ARPA dollars from the pool up to $750 for the purpose of having Mint purchase the Parker Place building. Was there more to it that I missed?
No, that's it.
Okay. Brian.
So my concern is timeline, and I'm not sure if it should be specified in the motion that you have a specific timeline for when you want this to be completed by, because we all know government moves slowly unless you set a deadline. So I just wanted to potentially ask you to amend your motion to include a deadline if you so desire.
Would you be amenable to seconding a deadline, Councilor Lovelace?
No, because I do think that, like I said, I'm at this point considering voting no, just because I think we need to follow the process that was brought forth. I'm not at this point on the dais right now willing to sit there and say, yes, let's take that money away from the pool. I think that we need to look at options moving forward, and I don't want to do something just to shove it in. I want it to be a discussion, a community discussion, and so I will vote no because I don't want it shoved. I think that we can do it in a timely manner if we just do the best we can and get it up to the community that that's what we want.
Rob?
So I have a question for Aaron and JC. So if I'm hearing you guys correctly, Vanessa's motion wouldn't necessarily be any faster than, because we would have to come back to a business meeting, public comment, et cetera, et cetera. It wouldn't be any faster than Aaron's suggestion of essentially presenting council with a couple of options, which at essentially the same business meeting, we would then be deciding on, the public would be able to comment. So I don't necessarily see that Vanessa's motion is beneficial in any way. It just kind of, it shuts it down. And I'd rather see a broader discussion at our next, if we're going to decide at a meeting, at the next meeting, I'd like to see the discussion be broader, especially if it's not going to take any longer. Is that accurate, or?
That's correct. No matter what, even if you had everything solved and you cleared direction, it would still take another business meeting.
Right.
So, yes.
Okay, in that case, I'll be voting against Vanessa's motion.
So just as a professionalism on my part, because of the dollar amount, and this is public funds, I don't think we can, and we can check with legal, I don't think we could just legally just give them the money. I think we would need to do somewhat of an open process of a grant. Now, they may be the only one to apply based on the specifications that you give, but that could take some longer timing as far as a RFP process. Now, again, we can bust up the timeline as fast as we can make that. But again, there's some certain steps that we need to make if that is the desire and the direction of the council.
Vanessa?
In contrast to that, there is precedent with this council. We gave $800,000 plus to On Track, the Department of Administrative Service grant with no RFP.
Yes, because it was ARPA money. I think it was ARPA money, so we could do
It
that.
was the,
I
it
know
was
what
not
it
the
was.
ARPA money, yeah. It was
Yeah.
the DAS funds.
Okay, yeah, it was the DAS funds that came to this from the state.
All right, any
Yeah,
further
that's different.
discussion on the motion? All right, Vanessa, you made the motion, which was to provide direction to staff to prepare for the reallocation of ARPA dollars from the pool up to $750,000 to Mint for the purchase of Parker Place. And how do you vote?
Yes.
Rick?
I'm in favor of Mint, but I'd like to have a broader discussion. No.
Joel?
I would ditto Rick's comment, and I'll vote no at this time.
Val?
And I will ditto them both, because I want the larger conversation, but I am in favor of Mint.
Dwayne?
No.
Rob?
No.
DJ?
Nope.
Brian?
Yes.
Motion fails 6-2. Any further discussion? Brian?
So without making a motion, can we just get consensus to provide direction to staff to bring this to our next meeting to further the discussion and potentially make a decision? And I guess I'll just leave that to the mayor.
Is there council interest in doing that? Yes? Okay. That's what we'll do. Any further discussion on campsites, Mint? Okay, we have another item here during this part having to do with CoPA, and the Committee on Public Art had requested $1,500 to be spent on continuing the art in the newspaper program. And we discussed this just on Monday for a minute. Valerie, you had I think a question, you wanted to see the memo again. So the memo, I have the memo attached. I assume you guys do as well, have the memo on the dais there? Okay. Does anybody do you have any questions about this? Or we really just need to provide some direction to staff whether you want to pursue this or not? Valerie?
Well, I was glad I did get the opportunity, and I thank you, because actually Vanessa was the one who forwarded it to me today, because I couldn't find it. But in reading it over, it kind of summed up how I felt. The reality of it is I think that and in talking with some people on art, this year they paid for half of it, and then people from CoPA put money towards it to get it done. But there is moving forward, we need, I think, to look at social media and other ways of doing this. But I would support doing, which is what the staff put forward in the memo, that we do this 1 year knowing that this is the last year that this money would be put forward. Because that was the staff recommendation on that. And I also happen to know that the parking lot art that, you know, we have coming in, I'm proud of the city for sticking with it, but there's going to be some delays in that being done for the next couple of years because they can't do the Redwood parking lot, excuse me, you're interrupting me. Because you can't, they can't do the Redwood until we've redone that lot, if they can't. And that also goes for the alleyway. That cannot be done until the Redwood is done. And as far as I know, that's not on the agenda right now. So that's going to take a few years to get that going. So I think the direction I would like to see is what the city suggested, is that we do it this year and then say, we're done with that project.
TJ.
I'm actually done right now with it. I'm done spending money outside of the boundaries. Right now, we need 700 grand to buy a piece of property, and here we are talking about spending more money on art projects. I want to get serious about this issue at hand. This is a hard no for me.
I wasn't clear, Val, if you were suggesting using some of the money that's set aside for the sculpture, for the parking lot?
Yeah, to me that makes sense. I don't think that we need, I mean, they're not going to be spending $18,000 in this next year to do the parking lot because there's no work to be done there until we finish. So there is money sitting there that's allocated, or has been in the past. So it's just like, is there a possibility to use some of that money, or knowing that the other money is not going to be there to be utilized for that? Because I agree. I mean, I agree totally that at some point in time, you just kind of have to say no. But when I did read it and see that the staff had kind of come up with that as well, I thought, well, I can support that. So I'm open either way. But I don't know, and that's why I wanted that question, but JC wasn't here, so I just kind of wanted to get an idea on Monday where that fell in, whether that automatically, because it comes out of general fund when it's been budgeted for the work, correct? So either way, that's coming out of general fund.
The parking lot art, not necessarily, no.
The parking lot art, yeah, that's been designated every year. Does that come out of the general fund?
No, it hasn't. That is part of our typical LB discussion.
Okay.
And is not part of the general fund money, but it is unrestricted resources, part of the interest earnings that sit in LB. And so we normally go through a process to allocate those each year and go through its own separate meeting to allocate those resources. We just have declined to allocate any more resources to that particular LB.
So it's not, I guess the issue here is if we have $15,000 set aside for the sculpture and we're not going to spend it this year, you're saying it's an LB project and it just sits there and the same $15,000 can be spent next year. Okay, because it's a capital improvement instead of a general fund operation.
That is correct at this current time. So previously, I believe there were capital contributions made from the general fund to help bolster other areas, but we no longer do those things.
So if you spend this $1,500 on this request, it would be coming from general fund, and then that $15,000 would still sit there.
I believe we spent the last of the $15,000 on the parking lot art on the Beaver lot.
Yes. Yeah, and that was for this last year. So that's what I was wondering. So we've actually spent probably as much as we're going to spend right now at this point until something else happens. But so that's what I was just unclear about. But I could go either way. Like I said, I was just kind of doing what the staff had recommended.
Joel.
So, JC, if I understand you correctly, then we use the general fund to go into that LB account?
No, we do not.
No, so then those do not go back to the general fund if we don't fund this?
You could. We've just typically not chosen to do that because there are other lands and buildings and facilities and other things that require those resources as well.
Sure, like a roof and things like that. Well, my position on this is it doesn't even increase the amount of art in town. It puts a ad in the newspaper. And I don't critically examine the newspaper every day, but I don't even remember seeing the last year, seeing one.
You're there.
And given the purchase for Mint and given the funding for public safety, and to talk about putting an ad in the paper that doesn't produce anything, I mean, if it was, CoPA's done a great job with art in town, there's no doubt about that, but I think there's better use for this money, and it is a small amount.
Yeah.
But I think it's not appropriate at this point in time in the city for the citizens.
Brian?
It is a small amount of money, and in this particular instance, I'm going to go ahead and agree with Joel.
Rob?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to define even art as not nice to have, not need to have, but certainly an ad in the paper about art is definitely not a need to have. It's hard, small amount of money, but it's hard to spend it.
All right, sounds like we're taking a pass on this project.
I think that we just tell them that they could do, I mean, I'm assuming that our information specialists could put it on our site, that sort of thing. I would imagine that would not entail anything special. So I think that's just, we say, that's where you have.
And have the staff tell the committee, keep up the good work, because they do good work.
All right. Are there other items that you wanted to bring up in mayor council comments tonight? No. Are there items from staff tonight? JC?
Yeah, I believe you have a handout in your packet that is the insert for the December utility billing. The CPIU came in at 3.02%, and per our municipal code, that is the adjustment that will be made to the utility fee rates. And that is what all the constituents in the city of Grants Pass will see in December.
Okay, any questions about that? All right, anything else from staff tonight? Chief?
Hi, Mayor and Council. I do have a short update, a share for you all. As you know, we have quite the robust partnership with Options for Southern Oregon and have had a case manager embedded with the police department for a couple of years now. I recently met with the team, my team and Options, and we are going to embed a second case manager. And as you currently know, our case manager has helped a lot of people navigate their way through the system. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. It's good news.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. We do have an executive session tonight, so that brings us to the end of our regular agenda. I will entertain a motion to move into executive session.
I move we move out of regular session and into executive session.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of doing so, please say aye.
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 Any objections? Let's go ahead and take a, let's take